So picture this. Uh, you spend almost a year transforming your mind and your body into like a literal human weapon for a television role.
Right.
You don't just memorize lines, you know. You
Mm.
actually change your center of gravity, you consume thousands of calories, and you adopt the psychological posture of this vigilante.
A guy who operates completely outside the boundaries of the law.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
become an unstoppable force.
Yeah.
But then what happens to your psychology when the cameras stop rolling?
That is the big question.
Right. Like when a real-world, highly volatile physical confrontation suddenly finds you out on your motorcycle in a quiet, manicured suburb.
Yeah. Does the character take over?
That's what we're looking at today. Welcome to our exploration for this episode. We are looking at the meticulous, fascinating construction of a modern pop culture icon.
And examining the sometimes shocking ways that fiction bleeds into reality.
Yeah, it really is a remarkable phenomenon to study.
It absolutely is. I mean, we are examining the literal, physical, and psychological engineering of a human being to fit a fictional mold.
Wow.
And then, watching what happens when that engineered persona collides with the chaotic, unpredictable reality of everyday life.
And to figure all of this out, we have an incredible stack of sources for you today.
We really do.
We are pulling from an extensive encyclopedia profile of a legendary literary vigilante, plus some blistering and remarkably candid interviews with a massive television star.
Not to mention an intense fitness and diet breakdown.
Right, and some early career retrospective pieces. Oh, and breaking news reports containing official police statements regarding a violent suburban altercation.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. So our mission today is to deconstruct how a modern myth is built. We're going to trace this from the author's initial spark of inspiration.
Which is a great story in itself.
Yeah, through a grueling Hollywood casting gauntlet to the literal physical transformation of the actor's body.
And finally, how all of this specialized training manifested in a real-world conflict.
Exactly. It's a really diverse array of materials, but they all point toward a single compelling narrative.
Yeah, we are basically unpacking the architecture of intimidation and the psychology of justice.
I love that. So before we can understand the actor or the suburban brawl or any of it really, we have to understand the sheer gravity of the character he stepped into.
Right, because this isn't just a guy with a gun.
No, not at all. This character is a literary titan, and his origins are deeply rooted in like real-world frustration.
I absolutely are. So the character was created by a man who was, at the time, an unemployed former union shop steward.
Wow.
Yeah, he had just been fired from a television network as part of a corporate restructuring.
Think about the irony there. You're a union representative, someone whose entire job is to navigate bureaucracy, right?
Exactly. Negotiate with corporate structures, sit in endless meetings.
Right, and fight within the confines of a rigid bureaucratic system. And then you get fired.
You're just ejected from the structure entirely.
That psychological pivot there is crucial, isn't it?
It really is. The specific feeling of systemic betrayal directly translates into the fiction he created.
Because the author didn't write a protagonist who fixes the system from within.
No, he didn't write a crusading lawyer or a good cop fighting a corrupt department.
Oh.
He wrote a character who operates entirely outside of the system.
A man who completely ignores the bureaucracy that failed his creator.
Exactly. It is an exercise in pure wish fulfillment.
It really is. And the origin of the character's name is just brilliantly mundane, considering the mythic status he holds now.
Oh, the grocery store story?
Yeah. According to the encyclopedia profile, the author, who's, a towering guy himself, was walking down an aisle in a supermarket.
Right.
And an older woman couldn't reach a can of pears on a high shelf. So she turns to this giant stranger and asks him to, quote, reach for it.
And a light bulb just went off. He became the reacher.
That's so wild to me.
Well, it begins as a literal description of his physical utility in that singular moment, right? He is tall enough to grab the fruit.
Yeah.
But then it rapidly evolves into a sprawling metaphor for someone who steps in to solve problems that everyday people simply cannot reach on their own.
Oh, I like that. He becomes the instrument of intervention.
Exactly.
So let's look at the fictional biography they built for this guy, because it's essentially a recipe for the ultimate disciplined outsider.
It really is a fascinating mix.
Right. So he was born on an overseas military base in Berlin. His father was a Marine. His mother was French.
And her father, the character's grandfather, was in the French resistance during the Second World War.
If you analyze the genetic and psychological cocktail the author is mixing there, it's pretty brilliant.
It's incredible. From the Marine father, you have the ultimate indoctrination into Discipline, order, chain of command in, American military might.
Right.
But then from the French mother and the resistance grandfather, you have the legacy of rebellion.
Of fighting an asymmetrical war against an occupying force.
Exactly. Of operating in the shadows and doing whatever is necessary for survival.
So it's like absolute order and absolute chaos stitched together into one human being.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So he grows up moving from base to base, enrolls in West Point, gets commissioned as an Army officer, and ends up as a major in the military police corps.
And he isn't just a desk jockey either.
No, he leads a special unit tasked with the most difficult, sensitive cases. Oh, and the sources note, he is the only non-Marine to win the USMC 1,000-yard invitational rifle competition.
So he represents the absolute apex predator of the military justice system. He is trained to hunt highly trained killers.
But then, as the Cold War ends and the military downsizes, he just leaves.
He does. And his lifestyle becomes drastically ascetic. I mean, he basically becomes a ghost.
A total drifter?
Yeah, he has no driver's license. He carries absolutely no luggage. His entire inventory consists of an ATM card and an expired passport.
Which is insane to think about today.
Right. He buys new clothes when his old ones get dirty, throws the dirty ones in the trash, travels by bus, drinks black coffee, and loves blues music.
It's so specific. Now, we keep hearing he's a giant, but, Hollywood uses Apple boxes and forced perspective camera angles all the time to make actors look bigger than they are.
Sure, all the time.
So, according to the literary sources, how massive is this character actually supposed to be?
Well, the physical statistics are incredibly specific and entirely non-negotiable within the text.
Okay.
The sources explicitly describe him as 6 feet 5 inches tall, weighing between 210 and 250 pounds with a 50-inch chest.
Wow. That's huge.
Yeah, and the author actually describes his size as a, quote, metaphor for an unstoppable force.
So he isn't just a big guy.
No, his physical mass dictates the reality of every room he enters.
Which brings us to a brilliant sociological theory presented in our sources regarding why audiences are so obsessed with him.
This is one of my favorite parts of the analysis.
Yeah, it's fascinating. If you look back at the traditional Western hero, right, like the lone cowboy riding into a dusty town, what did that archetype represent to audiences back then?
Well, the lone cowboy represented a profound cultural longing for order in a lawless frontier.
Right.
The frontier town is chaotic, the bandits are running wild, the local sheriff is either corrupt or cowardly, and the cowboy rides in to bring the law.
He tames the Wild West.
Exactly. He brings civilization to the wilderness.
But this modern character flips that entirely, doesn't he?
He really does.
Because we don't live in a lawless frontier anymore. If anything, we live in the exact opposite.
Oh, completely. We live in a highly regulated, over-policed, surveillance-heavy society.
There are cameras on every traffic light, rules for every interaction, digital footprints tracking all our purchases.
And justice is often bogged down in years of legal red tape, continuances, and plea deals.
Precisely. So our contemporary cultural fantasy is no longer about bringing order to chaos.
Right. It is a fantasy of lawlessness.
Wow.
It is a deep-seated desire to bypass the suffocating bureaucracy of modern life.
That is so interesting. It's the fantasy of what would happen if all the red tape, the slow-moving institutions, the expensive lawyers, and the endless court dates just melted away.
Exactly. He is the hard-muscled guy who can look at a complex, morally compromised situation, do the ethical calculations in his head in 3 seconds flat, and ensure the bad guys get exactly what is coming to them.
Immediately.
Yes, without a single thought given to judges, jurisdiction, or Miranda rights.
It's like he is a human reset button for a broken justice system.
That's a perfect analogy.
You press him, the bad guys vanish, and the moral balance of the universe is restored. But wait, let me push back on this for a second.
Sure.
Isn't that a massive psychological contradiction?
How so?
Well, this is a character who spent his entire life, from birth on a military base through his late 30s as a military police major, enforcing military law.
Right.
He literally represented the ultimate rule of law. And now, he completely ignores it as a drifter. How does that track logically?
It's a great question. And understanding that perceived contradiction is really the key to understanding his whole appeal.
Okay.
Because it isn't a contradiction at all. It's actually a logical progression. He enforced the law at the absolute highest level, right?
Yeah.
Because he was on the inside, he saw its inherent flaws, its systemic loopholes, and its bureaucratic failures up close every single day.
Oh, I can see.
He knows the system inside and out, which means he knows exactly why it fails the innocent. His lawlessness isn't born of ignorance or anarchy.
It's born of disillusionment.
Profound disillusionment, yes. He left the structure because he realized that true justice, moral justice, sometimes requires stepping completely outside of legal justice.
He had to become an outlaw to actually protect people.
That's wild.
It is.
So moving from the page to the screen, what does this all mean for the poor actor tasked with bringing this titan to life?
It's a tall order, literally and figuratively. Right. We've established this monumental scale, a 6'5" unstoppable force, carrying the weight of a disillusioned justice system. Let's look at how the studio struggled to find a human being capable of actually embodying that massive metaphor.
The historical context of the casting process is vital here because it created a tremendous amount of pressure.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Initially, there were two major motion picture adaptations of the books, and the studio cast a very famous, incredibly talented A-list actor who is globally known for his action cinema credentials.
Right.
However, that actor stands at 5 feet 7 inches tall.
And the readers revolted.
Oh, absolutely.
The backlash wasn't just a minor internet complaint, was it? It was a fundamental rejection of the casting.
They absolutely did, and it goes back to what we discussed about his size being a metaphor. For the readers, the physical mass of the character wasn't just a descriptive detail you could ignore.
Right, it was core to his identity.
Exactly. It was the defining characteristic of his interactions with the world. When a 6'5", 250-pound man walks into a room, the geometry of the room changes.
The threat level shifts instantly.
Yes. A smaller actor, no matter how skilled in martial arts or acting, fundamentally changes the dynamic of how the character resolves conflict.
Right. A smaller guy has to use gadgets or incredible speed or, outsmart everyone in the room to survive. He has to dodge and evade.
Exactly.
But the character from the books doesn't evade. He just walks through the door, absorbs the impact, and everyone else recalculates their life choices.
He is the brick wall.
He is the brick wall.
Yeah.
So when the property moved from feature films to a television series, the studio knew they had to find a literal giant.
They did.
But the current lead actor, the one who eventually won the role, went through absolute hell to get it.
He really did. The sources detail a grueling, emotionally taxing 8-month audition process.
8 months.
And the most shocking behind-the-scenes revelation is that the studio had actually promised the role to someone else entirely.
Wait, promised? Like a done deal behind closed doors?
Yes. The actor himself stated that after surviving this 8-month gauntlet, going back again and again for screen tests, he found out the studio had essentially earmarked the job for another actor. They wanted someone who perhaps had a different profile or name recognition, but this actor simply refused to go away.
He just kept showing up.
He kept showing up, and in his own words, he, quote, crushed the final audition so thoroughly that they were forced to change their minds.
Oh, that's amazing.
They had to strongly consider the guy who was supposed to just be thrown into the mix as a backup option.
But think about the mental toll of that. How does an actor maintain their psychological edge and confidence over 8 agonizing months when they know or can sense that the studio literally wants the other guy?
It's incredibly difficult.
Right. That kind of systemic rejection would break most people's confidence entirely.
It requires a profound level of emotional resilience. And fascinatingly, he drew that resilience from his own real-world background.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The actor didn't have to look far to understand the character's military roots or his unyielding discipline, because he grew up on military bases himself. Both of his parents were veterans.
That is, the parallels are almost eerie.
They really are.
The fictional character is a military brat raised on bases across the world, and the actor tasked with playing him is a military brat raised in the exact same environment.
Exactly. And the actor explicitly utilized this background to build the performance from the ground up.
How so?
Well, he talked extensively about the concept of, quote, military posture. He didn't just watch action movies to prepare. He said he modeled his performance on watching his father interact in airplane hangars when he was a child.
Wow. The held tight posture, the way military personnel occupy space.
Yes, the specific body language, the economy of movement, the formality that is ingrained in military individuals.
That makes so much sense.
He also mentioned a specific chivalry that one picks up in the military culture. It is a deeply ingrained code of conduct, a way of holding oneself that commands absolute respect without needing to raise your voice.
So he wasn't just acting tough for the cameras.
No, he was channeling the exact physical language of quiet authority he had witnessed his entire childhood.
That's incredible. So he captures the posture, he captures the attitude, he outlasts the studio's preferred choice, and he wins the role of a lifetime.
A huge victory.
But capturing the psychology is only half the battle, right?
Mm-hmm.
To embody an, quote, unstoppable force, you can't just act big, you have to be big.
You really do.
He had to undergo a radical physical transformation. Let's look at forging the 235-pound weapon.
The physical requirements outlined in the fitness breakdown are staggering. Now, the actor was already in great shape from previous television roles, but his baseline weight was around 200 pounds.
Okay, which is still big.
It is, and it was built mostly through calisthenics, push-ups, pull-ups, dips. That's a very lean, effective build, but it's not enough to look like a man who can stop a speeding truck with his chest.
Right, right.
He had to gain over 30 pounds of pure muscle to reach the character's fighting weight of 235 pounds.
30 pounds of muscle in a matter of months is absurd. How do you even do that without looking like a bloated, immobile bodybuilder?
That's the challenge.
Because a bodybuilder looks great on a stage, but they often can't throw a punch or touch their toe.
Exactly, and that was the crucial distinction in his training methodology. The goal wasn't aesthetic hypertrophy. It was functional, agile strength.
Got it.
He couldn't just look massive, he had to look like a seasoned street fighter who could move with explosive speed and lethal intent. So he had to overhaul his regimen.
What did he change?
Well, he kept his foundational calisthenics because they build tremendous core stability, but he integrated heavy compound lifts.
Okay, so we're talking squats, deadlifts, bench presses, the big, brutal multi-joint movements that recruit maximum muscle fiber and trigger massive hormonal responses for growth.
Correct. When you deadlift, you aren't just working your back. Your entire posterior chain, your grip, your core, and your legs are all firing simultaneously to move a massive load. But to bridge the gap between heavy, static lifting and bodyweight agility, he utilized a very specific punishing tool, weighted vests.
Oof. Explain the biomechanics of that. Why not just lift more weights? Why put a vest on?
A weighted vest doesn't just make the muscles pull more weight, it fundamentally changes your center of gravity.
Oh, interesting.
When you strap 20, 30, or even 50 pounds of extra resistance to your torso and attempt to do pull-ups, push-ups, or even 5K runs.
5K runs in a weighted vest.
Yes. Your core has to fire dynamically just to keep your body from swinging wildly out of control. It mimics the unpredictable physics of wrestling a 250-pound stuntman in a fight scene.
Which is vastly different from isolating a bicep on a stabilized, comfortable gym machine.
Exactly. It builds a rugged, real-world density to the muscle.
And you cannot build a brick house without a massive supply of bricks. Which brings us to the diet.
The diet is wild.
The fitness breakdown reveals the man was eating 4,500 calories a day.
It basically became a grueling, full-time job of sheer consumption. We are talking massive, relentless quantities of oats, eggs, grilled chicken, quinoa, lean steak, and sweet potatoes.
Wow.
Eating 4,500 clean calories is vastly different than eating 4,500 calories of fast food. The sheer volume of food is staggering.
I have to point out the extreme physiological toll this takes. Eating 4,500 calories of chicken and quinoa and doing explosive compound lifts with weighted vests sounds like a punishing, exhaustive, full-time job all on its own.
It really is.
Just the digestion process alone requires immense energy. But he's doing this on top of a 14-hour shooting day where he's performing his own stunts, throwing punches, taking falls, without relying on CGI or body doubles.
Right.
How sustainable is this for a human body over multiple television seasons?
It is an incredibly valid concern, and it speaks to the hidden reality of action stars. The wear and tear on joints is significant, but the real danger is the exhaustion of the central nervous system.
Okay, break that down for us. What does central nervous system exhaustion actually mean?
Central nervous system, or CNS, fatigue means it's not just your physical muscle fibers that are tired from lifting. Your brain and spinal cord physically struggle to send the intense electrical signals required to make your muscles contract forcefully.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when your CNS is fried, your reaction time is dropped, your strength plummets, and your risk of a catastrophic tear or break skyrockets.
That sounds dangerous.
It is. Building explosive power and endurance changes the way an actor moves on screen. It looks incredibly authentic, but it demands a physical toll that is difficult to comprehend.
Yeah, I bet.
He is essentially maintaining the grueling training camp lifestyle of a professional heavyweight mixed martial artist. But instead of fighting once every 6 months, he is doing it under the hot lights, take after take, day after day.
Man. And here is where his intense dedication to the physical craft collided with the clinical realities of television production.
This is a fascinating turn.
Once he built this formidable physical weapon, once he put his body through all of that torture, he realized the show's cameras weren't capturing it correctly.
Yeah.
He decided to take control and direct the violence himself.
This is a remarkable behind-the-scenes dynamic that reveals a lot about his clout on set. Following a highly successful, widely praised second season of the show, the actor made a blisteringly candid admission in an interview.
What did he say?
He publicly stated he was, quote, really upset with how the fight scenes were executed.
Upset about a massive hit show.
Yes.
He said they didn't do a good job on the day, they weren't using the right tools, and the scenes weren't cut well.
That is brutally honest for a lead actor to say about his own production team. Usually, actors just smile and say everything was magical.
Exactly. It shows his immense protective instinct over the character and the physical investment he made. He wasn't just cashing a massive syndication check. He felt a profound responsibility to the physicality he had built. He knew what a 235-pound man moving at full speed looked like, and he felt the camera work was diluting that impact.
Right. So, heading into the third season, he took the initiative. He personally went to the studio executives and convinced them to approve new, specialized camera tools to get, quote, close and intimate with the fights.
He described his new philosophy as creating a, quote, ballet with a camera.
Yes.
And the way they achieved this is fascinating. He demanded they drastically reduce the number of cameras rolling during a fight scene.
If we connect this to the broader mechanics of film production, demanding fewer cameras is incredibly risky for a production.
Right, because usually a director wants as much coverage as possible. A wide shot, medium shots, close-ups from 4 different angles.
Precisely. That way, if an actor throws a terrible, unconvincing punch, the editor can save the scene in the editing room by cutting to a different angle right at the moment of impact.
Yeah.
By limiting the cameras, he was intentionally limiting their chances to hide mistakes in the cut.
Exactly. It forces longer, infinitely more complex choreography. Normally, action is shot almost like a frantic music video, a million quick half-second cuts so you don't notice the punches aren't actually landing.
Right, the shaky cam era.
Yeah. But by removing the safety net of multiple cameras, they are shooting it more like a live theater performance. If an actor misses his mark by 2 inches in second 45 of a continuous 1-minute take, the whole illusion shatters, and they have to start the exhausting sequence all over again.
It's high wire walking without a net.
You feel every single impact because the camera never blinks.
And the payoff for taking this massive technical risk was immense. Our sources highlight a specific sequence from the third season, an epic no-holds-barred brawl against a giant thug named Paulie.
Oh, seen that.
The actor claims with immense pride that it's the greatest fight sequence the show has ever done.
The narrative stakes there are incredible. It's the classic paradox. What happens when unstoppable force finally meets an immovable object? Paulie is an opponent who is actually larger, heavier, and arguably more dangerous than our hero.
It raises the narrative tension exponentially. Because our protagonist is so physically dominant in almost every scene, the audience rarely fears for his safety. He usually dispatches people with clinical ease.
Yeah.
But when he finally meets someone larger, every single strike matters. The geometry of the room shifts against him. One wrong move, one blocked punch means severe injury or certain death.
And the camera work highlighted that.
Exactly. The new intimate camera style complemented this dynamic perfectly, capturing the sheer desperation, the heavy breathing, and the brutal exhaustion of a prolonged fight between two absolute titans.
But the reality of this intense focus on violence, on functional strength, on central nervous system exhaustion, and military discipline, it suddenly took a very sharp, very serious turn.
It did.
All of this theoretical training leaked into the real world during a recent incident in the actor's personal life. Let's talk about the suburban brawl.
This is where the lines between the engineered persona we've been discussing and the actual man become highly scrutinized.
Yeah.
We have to look at the facts of this incident objectively, relying strictly on the police reports, body cam footage, and official findings provided in our sources. The incident occurred in a quiet, affluent suburban neighborhood in Brentwood, Tennessee. The actor was out riding his Kawasaki motorcycle.
And according to the definitive sequence of events captured by the actor's own mounted body cam, a neighbor stepped directly out into the road to block his path.
Yes, the body cam footage clearly shows the neighbor rushing out into the street. To avoid a catastrophic collision with pedestrian, the actor was forced to brake hard and actually went over his handlebars.
Oh, man.
Following a heated verbal exchange regarding the situation, the footage shows the neighbor physically shoving the actor.
This escalated instantly into a physical fight, and the actor tackled the neighbor, knocking him to the pavement, standing over him and shouting, quote, "Stay down."
Right.
And what makes this entire scenario even more intense and emotionally charged is that the actor's two young sons were sitting right there on their own bikes, watching this violent altercation unfold in real time.
The aftermath of the incident is where the differing narratives emerge and where the psychology of public relations comes into play.
Tell us about that.
The neighbor gave several interviews to the media, claiming the dispute originated as a complaint about the actor speeding and the noise of the motorcycle. The neighbor also claimed he was struck multiple times during the altercation and stated he did not know the man he was arguing with was a famous television celebrity.
But the police investigation didn't rely on media interviews, did they? They reached a definitive conclusion based on hard evidence.
They did. The Brentwood Police Department thoroughly reviewed all available evidence, most notably the objective video footage from the body cam, alongside witness statements.
And what did they find?
They officially determined that the actor acted entirely in self-defense. In fact, the police considered pursuing a criminal charge of reckless endangerment against the neighbor for stepping to the roadway and causing the crash.
But the actor declined to pursue those charges. He just let it go. So the case is officially closed. No criminal charges for anyone.
Exactly. But the stark contrast in public relations and legal strategy in the aftermath is incredibly telling.
How so?
Well, while the neighbor was speaking to reporters, the actor maintained a strict, impenetrable, disciplined silence. He gave 0 interviews. He released no frantic PR statements defending his character.
He didn't say anything.
His only public response to the entire ordeal was a single cryptic post on social media. He posted an image with a quote attributed to Napoleon Bonaparte, quote, "Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake."
Wow. Never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. That is ice cold.
A prominent legal blog analyzed this exact dynamic perfectly. They pointed out the massive, potentially life-altering legal risks the neighbor took by speaking publicly to the media about an active police investigation.
Right, because when you give interviews about an altercation, you risk self-incrimination.
Exactly. And if your public statements contradict official police findings or hidden video evidence, you risk perjury or defamation charges.
That's a huge risk.
The actor, conversely, let his, quote, enemy talk freely to the press, potentially digging a deeper legal hole with every sentence, while he remained completely silent, trusting the objective video evidence to clear his name.
This brings up a fascinating psychological question. Did spending years training to think, move, and fight like an elite, hyper-disciplined military investigator genuinely prepare him to de-escalate and handle a real-world physical threat?
It's hard to say for sure, but...
Or is it just an eerie, unsettling coincidence that his real life suddenly looked exactly like a scene from his show? If we look at the dots we've connected, the military posture he learned from his father, the functional compound lifting that gave him overwhelming strength, did all of that culminate in that split-second decision on the asphalt in Tennessee?
It is exceptionally difficult to separate the training from the man in that moment. Look at his actions. He utilized overwhelming, decisive physical force to instantly neutralize the threat, taking the man to the ground.
Yeah.
But crucially, he showed immense restraint by not continuing the violence once the man was down. He didn't pummel him, he merely established dominance and commanded him to stay down, utilizing the exact military chivalry and economy of action we discussed earlier.
Right, you didn't lose control.
Furthermore, he showed restraint by not pressing legal charges, essentially choosing to walk away from the bureaucracy once the immediate physical threat was over. And finally, utilizing psychological warfare with the Napoleon quote instead of a standard Hollywood publicist's apology is straight out of the fictional character's playbook.
In a moment of sheer adrenaline and chaos, he perfectly embodied the character's ethos.
He really did.
Okay, you look at the sheer aggression required to neutralize a threat on the pavement. You look at the 4,500-calorie diets and the brutal training, and you naturally assume this guy was just born a brawler.
Sure, you think so.
You assume he came out of the womb throwing hooks. But to truly appreciate where this titan of action is today, we have to look at where his career actually started. And the psychological foundation of his confidence didn't come from a dojo, and it didn't come from the military.
No, it didn't.
It came from the most unlikely place imaginable.
It is one of the most remarkable, jarring origin stories in Hollywood. We have to flash back a couple of decades.
Okay, set the scene for us.
He wasn't always a hulking, 235-pound action star dictating camera angles. He was once a 20-year-old kid from Niceville, Florida, sporting early 2000s frosted spiked hair.
Oh, man.
And he was auditioning for a massive, culturally dominant reality television singing competition.
Yes. The guy we just talked about knocking a neighbor to the pavement and quoting Napoleon was singing Stevie Wonder's "You Are the Sunshine of My Life" on national television, hoping for a record deal.
The archival footage of this audition is quite something to behold. He goes before the panel of judges, and the famous female pop star judge on the panel is immediately taken by his looks, outright calling him, quote, totally hot before he even finishes the song.
It gets so much better. The two male judges realize the bizarre chemistry happening, and they literally get up and leave the judge's table so this 20-year-old kid from Florida can privately serenade the pop star.
It's incredibly endearing and entirely antithetical to his current image.
He really is.
He made it past that initial audition, relying on his charm and vocal talent, and advanced to the grueling Hollywood round of the competition. However, he was ultimately cut before the live shows.
But that specific failure, that rejection, pushed him to rethink his path, move to Los Angeles, and pursue acting instead. And here's a detail I love. Despite his father having this strict, held-tight military background, the same guy whose posture inspired the vigilante character, he was completely, unwaveringly supportive of his son's singing and dancing ambitions.
He didn't blink an eye.
It's like finding out that the toughest, most lethal Navy SEAL in the squad secretly started out his career as a backup dancer for a boy band. It completely shatters your preconceptions of what masculinity and toughness look like.
What's truly fascinating here is the nonlinear nature of success and how seemingly unrelated, disparate skills stack upon one another over a lifetime.
How do you mean?
You look at singing a Stevie Wonder song and doing pop dance routines, and you think it has absolutely nothing to do with playing a brutal, bone-breaking vigilante.
Right.
But consider the underlying mechanics. The profound emotional vulnerability required to stand on a brightly lit stage and sing to millions of people, the intense memorization of complex dance choreography, the deep understanding of rhythm, timing, and spatial awareness.
Oh, wow.
Those are the exact foundational skills that eventually translated into the rhythm and ballet of high-level action choreography.
That is such a profound connection. He learned how to move his body to music in his 20s. He learned how to hit his marks on a stage. And decades later, he used that exact same understanding of rhythm and physical timing to direct a camera around a brutal fistfight.
The foundation was exactly the same, only the application of the skill changed.
It is a powerful testament to the fact that no life experience is truly wasted if you can find a way to adapt it to your current mission.
The vulnerability of the singer built the confidence of the brawler.
So, we've traced the creation of the character from a frustrated union rep, we've broken down the grueling casting process, the biomechanics of the physical transformation, the real-world collision on a suburban street, and the highly surprising musical origins of the actor.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. But I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, something built on all these sources, but pointing to a larger truth about us, the audience. Why do we care so much?
The appeal of the character clearly goes far beyond the visceral thrill of the action sequences. It taps into a deeper psychological need.
Exactly. The fictional character we've discussed rejects every single aspect of modern society. He carries no smartphone. He has zero digital footprint.
He cannot be tracked by an algorithm.
He refuses to be tied down by property, by mortgages, by dating apps, or by the endless doom scrolling of social media. Isn't it fascinating that in our hyper-connected, constantly pinging, anxiety-inducing modern world, our ultimate cultural fantasy isn't a superhero with futuristic technology or a billionaire with flying suits?
No, it's not.
Our greatest fantasy is just a guy whose superpower is simply the ability to completely unplug, throw his phone away, and walk away into the horizon. What does our collective obsession with this nomadic, untethered lifestyle say about our own deep, hidden desires to escape the digital chains of our daily lives?
It suggests a profound collective exhaustion. We are drawn to him because he is free in a way we no longer believe is practically possible for ourselves. He represents the ultimate luxury, the luxury of absolute disconnection.
Just something to think about the next time your phone buzzes with an urgent email at 10 p.m. Thank you so much for staying with us until the end of this exploration. If you enjoyed this discussion and want to keep exploring